Sonic X Comic, Issue 3. We start out with a text blurb reminding us that not long ago, in another dimension parallel to Earth, Sonic charged into Eggman's control center to thwart his scheme to use the 7 Emeralds to become Emperor of the Galaxy. Why do they keep telling me why they were sent to Mobius? This is the 3rd issue by now. At first I was confused into thinking they were talking about an episode of the show because it said another dimension. So it couldn't have been Mobius. Maybe it was an alternate Mobius, but that would have been too fascinating for Sonic X. After that waste of a panel, we see Sonic with a strained fake smile as he thinks that he hates the beach while avoiding some black and white sharks. Or dolphins, I guess. Anyways, I love that Sonic is like this here because it shows depth to his character instead of him always being cocky for real. It's realistic. He thinks that his problem is that Cheese was kidnapped, and he dodges some thrown bomb coconuts from Badniks, and Eggman explains that he's keeping Sonic distracted while his main plan goes into motion, which is why he stole away Cream's pet in the first place. It's kind of amusing that Eggman randomly goes into a school teacher costume to tell them to go to school and pay attention, but the same problem that AOSCH had when Sonic did it in that show is present here. Where did he get that costume from? That's not funny. It would have been more funny if we saw him get into the costume and where he got it. Especially since he'd be taking a break from talking while he takes a while putting it on just for the sake of a small gag. And then he has to take it off again. Instead, it's just a forced joke. But I do like that he's having a clever plan because his kidnapping Cheese had an actual justification and not just him doing it for no real reason. Then Bokon the robot gives Sam a supposed fuel injector. I have a feeling people should already be well aware of who he is on sight since he's one of Eggman's main robots. Or even if they don't recognize him, shouldn't it be obvious he's a robot because he doesn't look human at all? But no, it's just a kid in a costume apparently. Why trust something that some kid in a costume gave to you and insisted it was a fuel injector? Why would a kid be trusted with that kind of thing? What an idiot. Sonic dodges Badniks and some fire from tiki statues like an Angel Island, and Topaz gets a new gift, as does Chris's teacher. Bokon had been told to give people gifts, and Eggman plans to make human beings power his new Badniks, and not just any human beings, but Sonic's own friends. This is dark, impressively threatening of this version of Robotnik. It's basically how Fleetway handled Badniks, putting regular talking civilians to them, so it was like roboticization, only it's easier to undo. So the only reason it's still a problem is because there's too many of them, and if Sonic freed them all, there would be more Badniks built anyways. But because this idea would make Eggman a proper threat, like in some of the best continuities, I'm guessing this will just be a one-episode idea for the sake of meta logic, and he'll fail and never actually use the brilliant idea again, when he logically shouldn't be a huge problem by constantly kidnapping human beings. He could have his own Robotropolis that way. Also, while he's inexplicably dressed like a school teacher again, though I don't know any teachers that dress like that, he still looks intimidating enough for what he's talking about because he's dressed in black. Sonic wonders what Eggman's really up to since all he did was rescue Cheese. Chris invites Tails to go on a field trip with him, and for no reason, Chris's school teacher thinks of Eggman's name in French. I didn't know he was French. That was pointless. After he shows he's illogically clever by figuring out that something sinister is going to happen, since, oh, Eggman had used his name in French as an alias, so he can invite the heroes to a space museum without them being suspicious. That's actually pretty brilliant. Normally he's not very subtle. Speaking of subtle, Amy is that because she just thinks her creepy infatuation with Sonic instead of saying it and begins to pose a comedy relief character. She's still just comedy relief so far, but at least she's not being mistreated for it because she keeps it to herself. Games Amy can learn from that kind of restraint. Something weird about the secret government agent teacher of Chris, there's no way he went through teacher training, so what? Was the school forced by the government to let him be a teacher? Or is it that he took teacher courses and became a government agent? Anyways, man, that's silly. A robot of Eggman's bursts through the wall, and the heroes run towards him with Tails holding a power tool. Amy's hammer does nothing. Ugh. Isn't it bad enough that she just attacked once the last time she used her hammer? And Tails' screw does nothing. and Sonic punches it and is told to look out. Sam is warned by an intercom that robots are attacking, and the floor crumbles and makes Amy, Chris, and some robots fall into it. Then Tails throws Sonic a ring, so he attacks the robots. Wait, how'd Tails get more rings? Does he go out on ring collecting missions with the Chaos Energy Detector? It takes one line to establish that. Anyways, after Sonic tells Tails to help Amy because he has to rescue Chris's friends, he chases after them when they're trapped in the truck, kidnapping them. And Sam tries to race ahead to save them instead of Sonic, but his car falls off a cliff and he has to rely on a parachute. Eggman presses the final button, and everyone he gave gifts to gets tied up by gray ropes. Sonic uses a ring to go into a super spin and saves Chris's friends, and we see Amy use her hammer and Tails pull out some wires to defeat a robot. Then they get targeted by another one with missiles from behind, and a cop or a museum guard that Sonic's leaving Chris's friends with thinks that his own field trips were never this cool. Why would he think this is cool instead of taking it seriously as a life-threatening situation? That shouldn't be happening to little kids. No, just because Sonic is there? Another creator's pet moment. Sonic gets threatened by a robot that Chris had been forced to stay inside, and surprisingly, the issue ends in a cliffhanger instead of the comic being purely episodic. It's almost like it's an actual comic book. This issue is by Joe Edkin, again. Eggman has a pretty clever plan in this one. Not only does he plan to do what Fleetway Eggman did and capture actually thinking beings for his badnik so we have more reason to care about it, but he's capturing some humans that Sonic knows to give him even more incentive to hold back against the robots. And they're not brainwashed when they're trapped inside the badnik, which makes more sense because how were they brainwashed that way in Fleetway? I remember something about a brainwashing beam, but that was only something I saw a short fuse put up with. I don't see the point of him distracting Sonic with kidnapping Cheese when Bocon could have given those people the traps either way. It was nothing but padding. As was the Sam parts. But it was clever of Eggman to be subtle for a change by using a fake name to lure people to his trap. He has to get them to where he knows that they're going to be, because it makes more sense that he'd know where they are and know that they will stay in the same place for a while. The action scene was tense, and I liked that despite being incompetent at first, eventually Amy and Tails got to be useful, but eventually Sonic got a ring for some reason and guaranteed that he'd win as a result. Why can't he just be this capable on his own without the ring? Logically, I think the only reason Tails doesn't give him the rings to start with is because he doesn't want to waste them in case he was capable of winning without them, but he never learns. It's getting to be pretty obvious that he always needs them. So him not giving him the ring right away is arbitrary, and when he does get the ring, his victory feels less earned because it's only because of the ring.